Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Cynthia, and I help direct the events here at Strand. For a little bit of history, Strand was founded in 1927 by the Bass family over on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Stretching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled until, after over 92 years, Strand is the sole survivor, still run by the Bass family and still housing new and used books. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome Hannah Shaw for the launch of her book, Tiny but Mighty. Hannah is an award-winning kitten rescuer, humane educator, and unwavering animal advocate who has dedicated her life to protecting the tiniest and most vulnerable felines. Her project, Kitten Lady, provides educational media, training resources, and instructional workshops that help individuals and animal shelters learn how to save the lives of kittens. She has been featured as a guest expert on Animal Planet's My Cat from Hell, and is also the founder of Orphan Kitten Club, a charitable organization that provides rescue and adoption services to orphaned kittens in the San Diego area. Please join me in welcoming Hannah to Strand.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm really, really excited. Oh, thank you guys so very much for joining me. This is the launch of my book is today, so this is like a party for me, and it means a lot to see so many people here. Thank you. I'm also really emotional because I see so many friends pouring in, people I didn't even know were gonna be here. This is such an amazing community. Friends, new friends and old, thank you for being here. When I rescued my first kitten 10 years ago, I never could have imagined that I would be here with a community like this. I felt really alone when I rescued my first kitten, and I don't feel alone anymore. I feel like this is an incredible community, and not just a community, it's really a movement. And there's so many amazing people in this room who are doing great work for cats. I'd love to know who's in here. How many of you in this room, just raise your hand if you have ever fostered a cat or kitten before. Yes, this is my people. You guys are my people. How many of you have ever trapped a cat for TNR? Yes. I know you, Lewis, you do it all the time. How many of you have adopted a cat? Great, wonderful. How many of you volunteer or actively volunteer somewhere in New York City? Or outside of New York City, volunteer. Okay, great, wonderful, yes. And how many of you aspire to do more someday for cats? Hopefully, a lot of you. Okay, well, you guys are awesome. I'm probably gonna cry tonight because I'm really emotional, and I just love all of you guys sincerely. I was thinking about what I wanted to say, and really the thing that I want to say more than anything is how much this really does feel like a movement, and how much I hope Tiny but Mighty can be, play its small part in propelling this movement forward so that people have the tools they need to be able to save the most vulnerable lives. I called my book Tiny but Mighty because little kittens like Hank here, the cover kitty, they are really, really small and they're really fragile, but they are packed with potential, and they just need our help bringing that potential into reality. But the other reason I called it Tiny but Mighty is because of this, because I realized along the way of my rescue journey that big movements are made up of tiny individuals, and that feels really empowering because I'm just one person, but you guys are all just one person too, and together we can do a lot. I am really hopeful that this book will inspire more individuals to get involved. That's really my dream. I don't want people to look at me and say, I wish I could do what you're doing. I want people to look at themselves in the mirror and say, I can do something. I can do my part. I hope that this book will not just inspire people to get involved, but also educate about how to do this work really well. Because I don't want anybody to ever feel as alone as I did when I got started. I want this to be the resource that I wish I had when I started fostering. So what you will find in the book, did everybody get a copy of the book? Yes, yes, yes. You have no idea how happy I am to see this actually in people's hands. I'm like, oh, it's so great. What you'll find in the book, there's a lot of information in here. This thing it's a big book, y'all. You'll find how-tos, you'll find step-by-step tutorials, you will find charts, you'll find a poop wheel. That's the one that everybody's really excited about, the poop color wheel, which I was really excited about too. So I'm glad we can all be excited about poop together. You will find a lot of information about kind of why this is happening in the United States, and then the role that each of us can play. And there's a lot of different roles that we can play to make a difference. And then the other thing you're going to find in this book is you will find information, you'll find narrative adventure stories, my rescue adventure stories. There's more than 24 kitten stories in the book. And the reason that I did that is I wanted to weave together the actual narrative stories with the information that you're learning about how to do this work. So if you're learning about how to treat a kitten for fleas, I'm also going to tell you a story of a kitten that I rescued who had fleas and what that was like, so that you feel like you can see the success stories, you feel empowered to have those success stories yourself. I think that when we look at movements, they're made up of individuals, and similarly, when we look at these big, heavy statistics that can feel so ominous and so scary, hundreds of thousands of lives at risk, and what can we do about that? When we zoom in on the individual stories, it feels a lot more like we can handle this, because these big statistics, they're made up of individuals too, and all it takes to save an individual is an individual like me and you. So I'm going to do a reading from the book, and I hope this will work. I don't know where my clicker went. It's over there. Okay. Oh, you got it. Thank you. Guys, this is Mersini, and this book would not exist without Mersini, so can we all just say, yay, Mersini? Yay, Mersini! Maybe I should quickly say, this book, I had this book inside me for so long. I wanted to write a book so badly, but Mersini was the person who is from the literary world who contacted me and said, I can make this happen, and I believe in you, and you changed my life. Thank you, Mersini. Makes me emotional. She's the best, and she's a great cat lady. So this is a story that is in chapter 4 of the book. And what you'll see is that throughout each chapter, you're learning about different issues in kitten welfare. Chapter 4 is all about neonates, so the tiniest little kittens. And this story appears right after you're learning about heat sources. So the importance of keeping kittens warm, something that a lot of people don't realize. So I share about heat sources, and then I tell this story called Kitten Hot Mess. So I'm gonna read this for you guys now, my first book reading ever. Okay, I feel like I'm in middle school again when you had to read and you're like, what are words? Can I even read? Do I know how to read? Okay, I got this. All right, Cold Kitten Hot Mess. It was unseasonably cold in Washington, D.C. Spring was coming, but not quickly enough. And after several weeks of warm weather, we had been hit with a sudden cold front that dumped a foot of snow on the ground. It was on this frozen day that a community cat in my neighborhood went into labor prematurely and, seeking shelter, slipped through a local artist's studio door, which had been left ajar. Under the refuge of a large oil painting, she gave birth to 2 underweight kittens and then exited the building, never to return. Now, there are visuals for this, so if you want to look at what I'm looking at, there's visuals. By the time I received the call about the 2 kittens, they were 4 hours old and nearly dead. I rushed down the street with a heating pad and a rescue kit and entered the studio to find the artist in a state of panic. The studio wasn't much warmer than the street, and the 2 newborns were frozen stiff like little popsicles. Still wet from birth, they were covered in a chilled, bloody residue. They made no sound or movement other than shallow breaths from the small tuxedo kitten. The black kitten appeared to have no life in her body. As I reached for the kittens, the artist asked, "Are you sure it's okay to touch them? I wasn't sure, so we didn't." Yes, you have to touch them in order to help them, I said, lifting their lifeless bodies to my mouth, breathing hot air into their damp fur. Externally, I was composed, but internally, my heart was flooded with sadness, knowing they'd been left there to freeze without any assistance or warmth. Situations like these are why it feels so important to me to educate people about kitten welfare. People just don't know what to do. I placed them side by side on a heating pad. They were in a very bad state, clearly born prematurely, left with no heat source for hours, never having had a lick of food from their mother. Using a cloth, I got to work cleaning the afterbirth from their fur and clearing the residue from their airways. I brushed their bodies vigorously with a soft bristle toothbrush, trying to get their blood flowing. After a few minutes, the little black one began to breathe. The artist gasped. The kitten was still alive after all, but barely. A cold kitten is a dead kitten. Neonates cannot survive without a heat source. Once it was clear that the kittens were still clinging to life, I brought them back to the nursery. I named the little black kitten Mink, and the tuxedo kitten was Badger. They were underdeveloped and so tiny. It doesn't get tinier than a preemie. Despite everything that we tried for Mink, she sadly passed on her second day, leaving baby Badger all alone to fight for his life. Badger spent his first 3 weeks of life alone in an incubator, nesting like a little baby bird who wasn't yet ready to hatch. My heart broke for him as he wiggled around, navigating the world with closed eyes and no mother or sister to cling to. He did have a stuffed puppy and a stuffed moose, which he'd rest his little white chin on during his long naps in between feedings. Very cute. Every few hours, I would lift his tiny body, weigh him, feed him, help him go to the bathroom, clean him up, and give him approximately 1 million kisses before placing him back in his warm isolation unit. Now, as a preemie, Badger's body developed roughly 7 days behind schedule throughout the duration of his upbringing. His umbilical cord clung on until he was 12 days old. His eyes opened at 16 days old, and his motor skills were delayed. It felt like he would be a little guy forever. As his body grew, it became very clear that the cards were stacked against him. He had a belly full of parasites, skin that flaked off in chunks, and a congenital defect called megaesophagus that caused him to regurgitate his food. He was constantly gassy, and his bloated belly gave him this very pudgy, pear-shaped look. It's an unbelievable photo. With all of his woes, I jokingly referred to his condition as neonatal hot mess syndrome. He was a mess, but he was my favorite mess. In all our time together, he'd become my little sidekick. Some would lose hope for a kitten with so many troubles, but I'm not one to give up on a baby who so clearly wants to live. For as many troubles as he had, Badger would gulp down meals like a competitive eater, seek human interaction, and melt in your hands if you gave him a gentle scalp massage. This was a kitten who desired to someday be a cat, but getting him there would be such a delicate process. Badger's treatment involved antibiotics, deworming medications, and daily butt baths to deal with his poop explosions. As he weaned onto solid foods, he had to use a special feeding station to help him eat at an upright angle and prevent regurgitation. It was a bumpy road, but over time, he started to get the hang of life, and he even started thriving. Hey, what are you doing? You feeling good today? You look like you're feeling great today. You're like a new cat all of a sudden. What happened? What was that? Are you becoming a cat? Are you freaking kidding? As Badger's health improved, I decided to introduce him to a litter of 5 kittens. I was also fostering at the time. These kittens had been raised by a mother cat and had thus grown up to be these robust, social, normal kittens. So here I was, feeling like the mother of a homeschooled, dorky, stinky little boy who had no social skills, bringing him to his first day at a prep school with the privileged little milk feds. I kissed him on his head, placed him in the room with the others, and held my breath, thinking, please, please, please accept my awkward son. It took a few days, but slowly he started to fit in. Next thing I knew, he was figuring out how to cuddle. After that, he was learning how to play. He took a liking to Leanie. Leanie was a swirly tortie who looked like a beautiful little peanut butter brownie. And over time, Leanie took a liking to him too. My heart exploded with joy. It was like watching an 80s rom-com unfolding before my eyes. The nerdy outcast was winning over the cool girl, and it was honestly the best. As time passed and their friendship flourished, his health conditions withered away. Suddenly, he was no longer a weird little pair. He was a handsome, normal-ish boy with a best friend. Badger and Leanie found an adoptive home together, and as I placed them in the carrier to say goodbye, I kissed him one last time, and tears filled my eyes. I remembered Badger and his sweet sister Mink huddled together, so cold on their first day of life, and how impossible it felt that either of them would survive. I wept for his sister and for all that Badger endured in order to become the beautiful young cat who sat before me. I'm so proud of him, I said, and zipped him up with a lump in my throat. Badger comfortably curled up next to his new sister, Leanie, and he looked at me through the mesh with big, soft, loving eyes. He now had a best friend and a loving home, and from that day forward, he would always be warm. Okay, I'm not alone in crying. Thank you, Mercini. I appreciate the moral support. Thanks. I know Badger was a really special kitten to me. I think a lot of you felt the same about him if you were following him at that time. Did anybody get to meet Badger when he came to New York? A couple of you? Yeah, Badger came to an event here last year, yeah. Badger's story was really special, but unfortunately, it's not unique. There are a lot of kittens who are just in this exact same position, and my hope is that this book will give you the tools and the inspiration to go help your own kittens like Badger. There is a table here from New York ACC where you can get more information about how to do this in your community, but you're also surrounded by other advocates who live here, who are local, who would love to talk to you. There are some really, really amazing people in this room, so please, let's make this a community. Let's make this movement be something that's cohesive, where we all know each other, we talk to each other, exchange contact information with someone, even if it's just your Instagram handles, you know. Become friends with someone here tonight. Talk with ACC about how you can help. You know, honestly, my life would not be even a fraction of as rich with, you know, rescue and with the ability to feel impactful if it weren't for me just making connections with other people. So to that end, I want to bring up a person who's really important to me, Christina. Ha. Christina is, please come up, Christina. And I'll tell you about how amazing she is. Christina is one of my favorite friends in the entire world, but she's also an incredibly important animal activist who is here locally in New York City. Christina is the founder of New York's first cat cafe, Meow Parlor. Anybody go to Meow Parlor? If you haven't, you gotta go there. She's also the founder of Cat Camp NYC, which is my favorite. It's just the best event. It's an advocacy event, and Badger actually got to come to it last year. It's a great advocacy event that happens annually here. Christina is an amazing, amazing advocate and a really, really important friend to me. So we're gonna have a discussion up here, and then we will invite you guys to ask questions at the end, and you can ask questions for me or for Christina, who's local here and someone everybody should know. So yay, Christina, thanks for being here with me.
I think we should end here. Wow. Is this on? Oh, there it is. This book is incredible. I mean, I just finished reading it last night, right before midnight, and I felt like I got in right before the end of the race. And I was just, you know, having known you for now 3 years, I think that it's such an incredible way to sum up everything that's in your mind, getting it out there, and I think it's a game changer. I think that so many kittens will have a different future because of you.
We're both going to cry a lot.
We can't do this. We can't
Don't look at me,
other.
Christina. Stop looking at me.
Yeah, like those cats that are mad at each other. Let's hiss.
We got
Take a
this.
moment.
We got this.
So you got started 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you found Coconut, who's, by the way, the best cat ever. You know, she is the cat that, like, oh my God, I wanted to steal her because she is so good and she is so perfect.
Well, what did you say to me earlier today? You said if our friendship ever breaks up, I get to keep Coco, and I was like, how does that work?
That's 100% how this works. I get to keep Coco. I'm gonna fly there, pick her up, and take her home. But over the last 10 years, so much has changed, and you've been leading a lot of that change, which I think is so incredible. And from your perspective, what do you think? What have you seen that's changed?
Oh my gosh. Well, when I got started 10 years ago, I got started just by rescuing kittens off the street, but when I got involved in working with shelters, it was a totally different world than it is now. I mean, there were not even foster programs at most of the shelters that I was working with. There was no foster program. I moved to North Carolina early in my rescue life, and there were still over a dozen shelters that used gas chambers to euthanize there. Things really, really were a different world. I mean, that was the experience that made me just put everything else on hold and say, this is where I have to dedicate my time and my energy. There was no community, there was no online community for cat stuff, and there certainly was no community that I could find to be part of that was focused on neonates. I think a lot has changed now. Pretty much every shelter has a foster program, and not just has a foster program, but it's an important, like, integral part of sheltering now that of course you have to have a foster program. And I think the community is learning more and more all the time about the importance of fostering. I think that these things come in waves, and there was this big push for adopt, don't shop, big push for spay and neuter your cats and dogs. That's what Bob Barker always said. But I always felt like, why aren't there's not a big push for, we need fostering, we need more people to know, not just about fostering, but about these little tiny kittens. I think social media has helped with that a lot, because people can follow the stories of other people and see real life people doing this in their home and say, hey, I'm a real life person in my home, I could do this too. I think that it's kind of this like beautiful give and take of shelters taking the initiative to have these progressive programs, and then them being able to do that because they know the public will respond. And like, it's this give and take, but we need both sides. We need good programs, and then we need people to participate in them. And I think that's something that's just improving all the time. There's more and more programs that have more like better protocol all the time, more support all the time, and then a more aware and engaged community. And that's the path that I hope that we're on, and it's the path that I know we're on, but we still got a long way to go.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we are getting there.
We're totally getting there.
We are getting there.
We met 3 years ago. I brought her to Meow Parlor. It was like our first time bringing in a speaker. I didn't know what I was doing. She was really cool about it.
I didn't know what I was doing either.
Yeah, we both acted really cool. It worked out. But I remember the second time I brought you back, I actually called you in for a very specific reason, and I said, I don't know a lot about this community. I want to learn more. I need to know more. I think that there is something out there, but I was like, I need something that's going to get me there in 2 days. I need to get there fast because there's something happening. I don't know what it is. But can you tell me what's happening in New York? Tell me what's happening in the country. Tell me what is changing. And you did such a good job of putting all of that together. And to me, it's such a delight to read this book and be like, oh, all of that stuff that she taught me, it's here, it's out there, it's for everyone to see what's happening, to learn all of these things, to see how progressive Hannah is. And to be perfectly honest with you, it shaped a lot of what Meow Parlor does, of how we handle the public. And I think that it's, people have been rescuing animals for many, many years. They've been rescuing them, before we even knew.
Before the internet even existed.
Yeah. And you meet people all the time. They're like, I've been doing this for 30 years. Hannah still taught me something, which I think is so, so incredible. But I think also what's incredible about what you're doing is not just saying, hey, I'm leading a movement. You're saying, come, be this movement. Be part of this. Join this community. And I think that's the thing that's so incredible. And, man, I need to stop looking at you.
I'm just looking over here. Hi, guys. Hey.
Yeah, let's not look at each other. And we have to commit to this. Later, we could rub our cheeks with socks, swap the socks, introduce ourselves to each other.
Only true cat lovers understood that joke.
Yeah, not enough of you laugh. This is a shame. Go look this up. But give me a second to gather my thoughts. As we continue to not look at each other, so then I looked at her. But, I think that one of the things that I found that was so incredible about you is getting to know you were the incredible, such strong people that you surround yourself with, that the idea is that advocacy is a community. It's never just the one person. There's, the idea is that things just don't happen on its own, that there are people there. It's not just you yourself. I'm the only one who could do kittens. I'm the only one who can do butt baths.
I cannot do all of this alone.
But I think what I've been finding is so incredible is the idea that you lay it out in your book that it's not just about kittens, it's about people. It's a people game. It's empowering people to get involved in this community, and it's empowering people to be open about how they feel, about compassion fatigue, and I know that's something that you're super passionate about.
Yeah, there's an entire chapter in the book, chapter 8 of the book, and there's a section in that. The whole chapter 8 is literally just about people and taking care of the people part of animal rescue. Because, by the way, we are animals. I know not everybody knows that, but you're an animal too. You have to take care of yourself to be able to do this work. But there's a section in that chapter called We're All in This Together, and it's about that because, I say it in the book. People always say, I love animals, but I hate humans, and I don't want to, work with humans. And guess what? If you want to save animals, you have to not just work with other humans, but love other humans. You have to, because no one can do this alone. Honestly, thank goodness for all of the people in this room who I know who are doing important things. Because, and I'm looking directly at certain people who I know. I'm like, I know you do good work. Because we all work together, and nobody can do everything. Without Lewis out there trapping all the cats in Queens, we would have more and more kittens that have to come and be fostered by Christina so that they can go into Meow Parlor. There's just, the community part of this can't be overstated. And I think the cool thing about that is there's more and more opportunities for the community to really come together. Events like this, events like Cat Camp, which you have done an amazing job with, where, it's an opportunity for people to learn and also, grow together. That means so, so much to me. That's been one of my favorite parts of knowing you, and I'm not gonna look at you, is the community impact, and I think that's had a big impact in New York City, and even outside of that. But absolutely, we cannot do this work without having the ability to work well together. And that doesn't just mean surrounding yourself with good people. It also means being a good person for other people to surround themselves with. So in the book, I talk a lot about not just how to find your community of people who you want to surround you, but also how to be a good, balanced person in rescue who, knows when to step up and be supportive, and also knows when to say, I can't do that. I have boundaries. That is a big thing, is we have to be better at setting boundaries for what we can't do sometimes. I always find it funny when I'm doing a talk. I'm always like, some of y'all need to do more, and some of y'all need to do less, honestly, because they're, more than maybe anybody, both of us know how important it is to also, know your limits and operate in a way that is built to last. I want this movement to be one that's so powerful, that is built to last, so that 70 years from now, we're all in this room and I'm like super wrinkly and we're talking about how there used to be issues that there are not anymore. And thank goodness we all stuck around. Thank goodness we all stuck around. That's what I want.
We'll be like, I saw a cat once. That was super nice.
My face will look like that app that's going viral right now where you make yourself look like you're like 180 years old.
And Coco will be a diamond.
Yeah. Oh, no. Coco will live forever. She'll live forever. I hope. That's the dream.
We all dream that, too. So, did you ever think kittens would find you a husband?
Definitely not. I have the story in the book. What chapter is that one in? It's in chapter 5.
Husband chapter.
The husband chapter. How to find a husband using kittens. No. Sorry, guys. I don't actually have good advice about that. But yeah, that was crazy. It's in the section about introducing kittens from different litters to one another. I think it's called Matchmaker is the name of that story. And it's me matchmaking these 2 little kittens who were both like solo orphans that they didn't know each other. They were from separate places. One was from a hoarding situation. The other was found outside in the trash. And these 2 little babies, I had to raise them separately because, of course, when you are raising babies from different litters, I want you to do that separately from one another for at least 2 weeks. The quarantine period is really important for the health and safety of everyone. And so, at a certain point, I was going to be introducing them, and I thought this would be cute to get like some professional photos taken of these 2 cute kittens meeting each other for the first time. So I contacted a photographer who everybody was going, you need to know this guy. He's like a cat photographer. I was like, that's weird. That's not a real job. And actually, funny story, people have been telling me about him for a while, and I didn't even look it up. I was like, whatever, I don't know what that is. And then somehow it like came up on my screen. And I contacted him, and then I saw a picture of him, and I was like, what? I was like, he's a cat photographer, and he's handsome. And I was like, hi, I'd like to book an appointment. I didn't know what would come of it, other than I wanted there to be some cute pictures of Bruno and Boop meeting together. But yeah, that was a fun story, because I did a matchmaking experience for these kittens, and they ended up being the ones who introduced me to Andrew, who is now my fiance. So yeah, crazy. Well, and that's the cool thing about getting involved in rescue. Like, you have no idea what path you're going to go down, both in terms of who you'll meet, the friends that you make, and then also like the personal development that you go on through it. Like, I would not be who I am at all without these experiences that you take on sometimes, not even knowing what's going to happen. I mean, like, a big part of doing this work is just kind of having like the chutzpah to say, like, yeah, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take on these kittens, or I'm going to introduce myself to this person who, I don't know from the internet, but they seem like they're doing good work too. And that's how I met Andrew. That's how I met you. That's how I met so many people in this room, where it's like, hey, I think we both have something in common. What can we do? You don't know the amazing path that you can take.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I sent her this email, and I was like trying to be impressive and trying to say like I started a thing, but I like wasn't entirely convinced. Meow Parlor had been around for like 2 years at that point, but like still wasn't entirely convinced I knew what I was doing. And now looking back, I totally did not know what I was doing at that point.
But you took the first step.
Oh yeah, and then she like wrote back, and it wasn't a threat at all, but it kind of was, and she's like, lots of people contacted me today. I will go with whoever books me first. So I like was in bed.
It was true. A bunch of people from New York. It was so weird. So and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I can do all of them, so.
Yeah, I got out of bed, went to the bathroom, and was just typing on my computer, and I was like, I see that you are up late like I am. And I was like, I'm determined to do this. And it was like, actually, part of it was competition. And I think both of us are highly competitive people. And I was like, there's no way someone is going to beat me. I'm already up, I'm sitting on the toilet, and I'm typing this out. And
That is so you. That is so you.
And she was like, oh, you want to get on a phone call? And that's what it is. And I think that one of the things that I've been finding that's super cool, and I think we do this to each other all the time, is we compete. Not in like a, oh, how many kittens does Hannah have sort of thing, but it's like a, you know, Hannah did something really awesome today. And it's like, can I do something that's awesome as well? And I think that that's part of also about building a community around you, is having the support that's there.
And the example of other people, like I am so inspired by watching what other people do, where you're like, that is so cool, I want to do that, that's awesome. You are one of those people, of course. Christina is
Stop looking at me.
Christina's always doing crazy stuff. Like amazing stuff. Putting on like more and more events and putting on, I don't even know when you sleep.
Yeah, I mean,
And then somehow you still have time to run the Cheeselman's Warehouse page. I'm outing her.
I've been doxxed.
She runs the Cheeselman's Warehouse page.
So I'm Eloise's agent.
Yeah, she represents Eloise.
If you need to book her, she doesn't want to be there.
That's true. Oh, gosh.
But, you know, I think one of the first things you asked me to do when you told me to look at the book was to read the story of Chloe, which is a lot. I mean, don't read that story unless you're like ready to read the story. Don't be like, oh, I'm already in a mood. Let me read the story. It's like, read the story, you know, with your mind open and ready to kind of go through a roller coaster of emotions. And I think that what was important about it was that, you know, she taught you that she was happy with who she is. And she waited for you to figure that out. So do you find that having worked with kittens makes you a better human?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I learned lessons from them that you can't possibly expect, that you don't even know the ways that you need to grow until you're doing it and you're growing and you're going, what's happening to me? Oh my gosh. I mean, I think taking care of little babies, it does a lot for me. It makes me see my own abilities. Like, it makes me feel that I have the ability to make a difference in other scenarios in my life where maybe you feel like, how can I possibly make a difference in the world, or even in this relationship that I have, or in whatever it is, you know, how can, like, if you question your ability to make a difference, watching a little seedling grow in your hand will make you have no doubts that your contributions, when you wake up in the morning, you have purpose, you have the ability to do tremendous things just with the beginning place of a compassionate thought, you know, honestly. That's one thing. And then I think, yeah, like acceptance of who others are and leading with hope always, I think, is something that I was not that way before I started rescuing. Like leading with like that feeling of just like, okay, I don't know how this will turn out, but I'm gonna stubbornly move forward anyway, because I'm gonna just put my, you know, preconceived ideas on the side and say, you know, we're gonna operate with hope and say, you know, there's potential for this outcome to be positive. I think that can only be powerful in your life, really. Like, that has absolutely changed my friendships, my relationships, other things that I care about. It sounds cheesy. Leading with hope with Hannah Shaw. It sounds so cheesy, but it's real. I mean, that's real, honestly.
I also find that when you work with animals, you have to compromise a lot, because they're not going to compromise for you.
They're going to poop on your lap.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that with working with kittens, I never thought I would be around this much poo. And like, if you guys...
Did you get poop on your copy of the book already?
Oh yeah, look. You see the brown stain? I woke up and it was there. And I was like, Oh, no.
It didn't come like that, though, right?
Oh, it was personalized.
Oh, okay.
There's my husband laughing because he's like, he knows that I love talking about kitten poo.
Well, this is the other good thing about having a friend in rescues. You have someone to talk about poop with and send pictures of healthy poop and unhealthy poop, too, which I know we've both sent each other our fair share of.
That was my first text message to her. I was like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's yellow. And if you haven't seen, there is a poop chart in there, so you don't have to text anyone. You can just look at the poop chart and be like, what does yellow mean?
You should also go to a veterinarian and get a fecal exam.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll send you in the right direction.
Yellow would be like, you should go to the veterinarian. But if you're like, oh,
unless it's mustard yellow, and then they're just a healthy bottle baby, perhaps.
Yeah, that's covered in there as well.
Yeah.
I guess. How has writing a book been different from, putting together your Instagram and your YouTube and all of that?
It's been really, really good because brevity is not easy for me. I have a hard time compiling everything that I want to say into like a 1-paragraph Instagram caption or even an 8-minute YouTube video or even a 2-hour talk. Like I do 4-hour talks and I'm still like, man, I wish I could have said more because I have a lot to share and I want to share. And so this was awesome because I was like, I get how many words? And then I went over by like, an extra 25% or something. And I was like, what do I do if I still have more to say? It was great. I'm happy that I have a place that I can send people that really feels like it has everything in it.
It does.
It really feels that way, and I think this also feels more permanent for me because the nature of anything digital is that as soon as it's out in the world, it's like it's seen for a short period of time, and then it kind of like splinters and withers away, and it's still out there, of course. Everything on the internet's permanent, but is it really something that you can hold and you can go to the bookstore and see it and go, oh, what's that? And I feel like 10 years from now, somebody can still discover this and find what they need to know, and that feels really freaking awesome. That feels really, really cool.
It's like the actual kitten Bible.
That's what Ellen said, and it was such a compliment. I was like, oh my gosh.
No,
They're going to have to put one in every bedside table at every hotel in the United States.
And every shelter. Before people go into the shelter to surrender their kitten, take the book.
Here, read this 100,000-word book really fast before you surrender your kitten.
All right, so I think now we're ready to open it up to questions, if anyone has any.
And I think that we're just going to project if you have a question. But please, first of all, don't be scared to ask a question. Maybe you have a question inside of you and you're like, oh, it feels kind of scary to like say something. Like I get scared to talk in front of people all the time too. It's okay. This is like middle school, and this is your chance to conquer those middle school fears. Stand up and ask a question or say something that you want to say. Yes. I have a whole chapter on that. So the question is, how do you go through the emotional process of saying goodbye to your foster kittens? Sure, yeah. So I have a whole chapter. Chapter 7 is called Preparing for Takeoff. Chapter 7. And preparing for takeoff is not just about like how to physically, it is about how to physically get your kittens ready for adoption, how to find adopters, stuff like that. But there's a whole lot in here about coping with saying goodbye. And the truth is that feeling that you have of like that bittersweet feeling, that is normal, positive, and something to lean into, not something to say, oh, I'm not cut out for this. A lot of people think, I'm not cut out for fostering because I would love them so much that I wouldn't be able to say goodbye. And the truth is, like, loving people are the people who are cut out to do this. If you don't feel emotional about your kittens, you're not you're not doing something right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So staying goal-oriented is really important, and the goal of fostering is to say goodbye to your kittens. That's why I always say goodbye is the goal, and staying focused on that goal is an important thing, because when you say goodbye, you enable another kitten to have a spot in your home. So I'm always thinking, once they get to 8 weeks, and honestly, a way that it helps me frame it too is like, once they're 8 weeks old, I'm like, you don't need me anymore. Like, you needed me when you needed me, and now you can go fill someone's home with love for 20 years plus. And that's an amazing gift that you give someone just by fostering for a number of weeks. And then, you save a spot. It's like I picture the kittens who are in the shelter going, save me a spot. And I'm like, I've got you. I'm saving you a spot. Trust me. And those 8-week-olds, I look at them and I'm like, why are you here taking up someone else's spot? I love you. Now get out there, kid, and go get a home, And sometimes, like, joking about it like that is a way to like put yourself in the right frame of mind. But it is important to know, like, everybody feels emotional when they say goodbye, and that's good. The day that you stop feeling emotional about your babies is the day that you're no longer good at being an amazing person for your babies. So the emotions are good. Having emotions in life is good. I'm standing up here crying in front of all of you with Christina. It's okay. Crying is normal, feeling things is great, and when you watch a beautiful movie and it's filled with emotions and you're just like crying thinking, oh, life is so amazing, like that's what fostering is. You go on a journey, and that's cool. People pay money to go to the theater to experience a journey that's beautiful and makes you cry. You could do that in 8 weeks in your home.
Oh, totally. With lots of poo.
Yeah, there is poop involved.
Yeah.
It's not as cute as a romance movie. Okay, let's take another question. Yeah.
After your experience with Joshua, are you open to taking in different kinds of animals on more regularly?
Yeah, the question is about, I took in a piglet recently, and the question is, am I open to doing more babies of other species? Yes, absolutely. So I have actually fostered lots of different species of neonates in the past, but I mostly focus on kittens because they have the greatest need. I've done squirrels and possums, raccoons, and puppies, and I have done one piglet now, and that was a wild ride and amazing, and he's so funny, and pigs are great. But yeah, no, I mean, my goal is that that eventually we will have more space to be able to do different species. I'd really love to be able to work with orphaned farm animals more, because that is something that happens a lot, especially calves, baby goats. These animals, they need somebody to take care of them too. In the sanctuaries, they're not always able to take on the little neonates. So yeah, that's definitely a goal for me. It's funny, Sonia, who works with me with Orphan Kitten Club, we've been working together since I moved there a year ago, and a couple months in, she was like, you know what's funny about you? And I was like, what? And she was like, you're not really a cat person, you're a neonate person. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm like a baby person. Like, I love neos so much. So she calls me Neo Lady because I just love like the neonates. I love all neonates. We went to the shelter and they had neonatal skunks, and I was freaking out. I was like, neonatal skunks, where have you been all my life? I just love the little fragile guys, and I love seeing them like bloom. I love it. So I am a cat person too, but I love all animals, and I do hope to be able to do more other species in the future. But honestly, kittens need it the most, because those are the ones that are coming into shelters with the highest frequency. So no shortage of kittens in need. Okay, yeah.
I'm fostering. Oh my God, I've never talked in front of like.
You're good.
Welcome.
You got this. These are all your friends.
I'm currently fostering a cat. He's not a kitten, and he does not get along with like my cat, so I have to constantly keep them separate. My question really is like, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing it, because he really doesn't like my female kitten, and I don't want to like give up on him. I want to keep fostering, but at the same time, I'm concerned about my cat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do. Should I contact hopefully he gets adopted. Like, I don't know. It's like a weird situation.
Sure. So the question is about your adult foster cat getting along with your cat. And I think if you're comfortable answering that, that's a great question for Christina, because Christina deals with adult cats having to meet each other every single day, running a cat cafe and also a rescue group. So what do you have to...
This is a tough one, because it happens a lot. A lot of times people bring cats into their homes and they don't really know how to introduce them properly. There are certainly steps to do it, and those are all things that you could definitely search online. But on the flip side, there are still sometimes cats who just don't get along. And
Like in the crate, like the big dog crate, so like it was like that for the first couple of days, and I slowly tried to like sniff the cage and like do that, but like he attacked my cat like kind of bad, so like I have to put it back in the cage, and right now I'm just concerned for like the well-being of my cat, and I don't want to like give up on him.
for sure, I would say definitely reach out to the organization that you're working with. Let them know what the situation is, because frankly, sometimes cats that are like that, really should be only cats, and they should find another home that has the capability of handling this cat as an only cat. That's not you giving up on this cat. It's you thinking about the well-being of the cat and thinking to yourself, what does this cat feel, and what is the best thing for this animal? And you are taking the steps to go ahead and do that for the animal. And while you may feel like, oh, I'm giving up because the cat's not in my care, you are making a conscious decision on behalf of this animal. And if your cats, the thing is that maybe your cats don't like adult cats, but you could still foster a different type of population. It's a matter of working with the organization that you're with, being open to the idea that, you're the one that's advocating for them, and you are making decisions on behalf of all the animals that are in your house. And so, taking a stance and saying, hey, this is maybe not the right situation is actually a really brave and super strong thing to do.
I totally agree with you. I think that knowing what you can do and what you can't do, and having the strength to say, this is not working, but something else might work instead, is really good. Flexibility is everything. That was a great answer, Christina.
Thank you so much.
And I don't have any sense of like what time it is, so we'll keep going. We'll do 2 more questions. Okay. Oh gosh, now it's really into, okay, all right, okay, we got fingers pointing at you, so we have to take a question from you.
So we have 2 younger cats and 1 older cat, and we feed them separately, but we feed them the same food just because they'll eat like different amounts. And then they're always trying to sneak into each other's food, and it's really annoying because we have to keep them separate, even though it's the exact same stuff. So how do you feed all your cats without them like eating each other's food?
Sharing is caring. I would eat off her plate. I don't think it's that weird, honestly.
We shared a pastry earlier.
Yeah.
That's another great question for you, I think, because of all of the cats that you're caring for.
So I have like 1,000 cats in my house.
That's not true.
It's closer to being true than it should be. And we have 1 cat who is a very large cat, and 1 cat who's very small, and we actually just separate her out. We just put her in a different room. We also got those like IKEA bookshelves with the cubes, and they each have their own cube, and the cube is like just small enough that the fat one can't fit in there if there's another one in there. So we just like devised a system, and we're like, oh, you always eat in this cube, and if there's already one in there, the fat one can't get in. But it's still actually small enough for like 2 small ones to fit in, but they don't want to do that. So there's actually, just be super creative, like think about different ways. You could feed them on different like levels in terms of different heights. So it could be like a floor, a shelf, a table, or it could be like the cubes, or it could be separate rooms. But if it's not a huge like dietary concern, I still think that sharing is caring. Also don't stress yourself out too much over this. Don't lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, I think creativity goes a long way, and I totally agree with that. There's also some feeding things that you can buy, some feeding bowls that are microchip activated. So you can sync it to your cat's microchip, and then they try to go in and it doesn't open up for them because they don't have the right code. This is like password protected crunchies. So that's another thing you could look into. My friend Candace over here, who's one of my favorite people in the world, Candace, say hi to everybody. That's Candace. She's one of my closest friends, and she feeds her cat Desmond in the bathroom, and he has a whole routine where he goes in the bathroom, and then he gets his food, and then when he's done, he gets in the bathtub, and you have to spank his butt. And that's the Desmond routine, and I love staying at your house because you got some weird cats. Yeah,
So much of it.
the routine.
This is where you go. This is where you go. I feel like that's a big.
Yeah, and it's rewarding for Desmond. He wants to get spanked, so he knows if he goes to the room, if he finishes his food, then he gets his spanks.
You know, cats are all unique in their own beautiful ways, and Desmond is no exception to that. Okay, one more question.
So I recently finally was able to start working with neonate kittens.
Cool.
And a question that I had for you is, it seems like in your house there's always a ton of them, and you have the nursery there. How do you deal with sleepless nights when you have to wake up every 2-3 hours to feed them all?
Yeah, so the question is about waking up in the middle of the night to take care of neonates. How do you deal with that? Well, one thing I would say is that don't do it all the time. Like, don't always have 2-week-olds in your house, right? The good thing about working with babies is, you know, most of the time you're not getting 0-day-old babies. Sometimes you do, and then you do have a couple weeks of, you know, waking up in the middle of the night. But whatever age you get them, you're really counting down to 5 weeks when you're able to wean them and, you know, sleep through the night and all of that. But I recommend, first of all, that once they wean, that you don't get other neonates right away. Like, let them, you know, enjoy that 5, 6, 7, 8-week-old kitten where you just give them some wet food and go to bed. And then, you know, give yourself a break in between. But the other thing you can do is you can prep ahead of time so that when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's pretty quick. What you'll find is the more that you do this, the more you're going to get in a routine. And you know, before I go to bed, I make a large enough quantity of formula that it's going to last me through the night. Because the worst thing ever is if I forget to do that. My alarm goes off at 3 a.m. and I go in there and there's no formula, and I'm like, ugh. It takes like 30 seconds to make formula, but when it's 3 a.m, you're like, why did I do that? So, you know, make a nice big amount of formula. I try to keep the lights really low for myself so that I'm not like stirring myself awake too much. Don't look at your cell phone. Don't check your email. Like, I am guilty of this. I wake up and I'm like, I wonder what's going on Instagram. Oh no, I can't go back to sleep. So I, you know, set my alarm. My alarm goes off. I turn it off. I don't look at my phone after that, other than to make sure my next alarm is set. Dim lights, go in there, do my little routine as quickly as possible, and then just try to go right back to bed. There's other things you can do, like, you know, eye masks, things like that. Always try to feed right before you go to sleep. I try to time it like that so that you get the maximum amount. But you'll work through a routine with your guys, and I totally believe that you have what it takes. But also listen to yourself. If you need a break, like, don't be scared. Even if you just have a friend that you can call on every once in a while to say, can you just do one night with the babies so I can just get 8 solid hours? Like, every once in a while I will do that, where I'm like, I just need like one night of 8 solid hours. And a lot of people say, oh, you have like, you know, a person that's doing this with you. Well, Andrew's only been doing this with me we've been together for 3.5 years. We've been living together for like 2 years. I didn't have this support until very recently, and I always was able to make it work. But I will say, when you have more support, when you have somebody else to like rotate feedings with, it makes a big difference. So get you a boo who likes kittens. Important. And that will make a lot of difference too.
Yeah. I actually have trouble going back to sleep if I wake up at night.
That's why you send me crazy emails at 3 a.m, like, hey, I made this candle with your cat designed on it, and your cat is dressed as like the freaking Pope, and she made me prayer candles of my cats. Yeah. How do you find the time?
That's because when I wake up, I can't go back to sleep. But what I found was that if I was tired enough, I could go to sleep actually pretty early. And then I kind of rearrange my night so that I do work at home sometimes. Like, I do some work while I'm at home. And it's not necessarily like work. Sometimes it's just like I want to do my emails, or I like want to edit some photos. I want to do something. So what I did was, because it's so hard for me to go back to sleep, I'd wake up at 2 a.m., work on it for 2 hours, and then basically conclude it, feed the kittens, and go back to sleep. So I broke
That's
up
a very weird strategy, Christina. I like it.
I'm just saying there's other options, and one of my cats is super annoying, but he's not annoying at that time. So I get so much more work done because I'm thank God he's asleep. So there are different ways around it, and it's just depending on what works for you and whether you can sleep or not sleep. And I wish I could sleep easily, but I can't.
Yeah, I think just creativity, figuring out what works for you. For me, it's definitely try to keep myself in that sleepy, awake enough to do it well, but asleep enough that I'm not even really that. I'm just kind of sleepily feeding them and just falling back asleep.
I have too much anxiety for that. It's if I don't look at them, they'll die.
Oh no, I'm looking at them. Trust me. Also, how can you not look at them? They're so cute. Okay, so I think that do we have time for one more? Or are we? Okay, we're gonna do one more question, and I feel you have to pick. Sorry.
Oh God, no.
Oh, we have a pointed finger.
Everyone's pointing to this young lady over here.
I can't even see who am I looking at. Oh, hi. You're good. You're good. What does your shirt say? You've got to be kidding me. I love it.
So, I know it's mostly exposure, but I was wondering if the hospital also neonates if you really have to school.
Sure. So if you are, have a busy school schedule, or if you have a busy work schedule, or if you're a young person, how can you foster kittens? You totally can, as long as you have support from other people, especially if if you are a minor, you have to have support from your family. If you're still in school, you need to have, parental permission and support to do that. But the great thing about fostering kittens, or fostering in general, is you choose what you have time to do. So maybe you don't have time to do neonates, but you do have time to do weaned kittens who need somewhere to be for 3 weeks. Maybe you have time to do moms and babies. That's a huge, huge need. And the other thing about moms and babies, it's already a big need, but as we get more awareness about not just, kidnapping these babies off the street and trying to get the moms, we're gonna need even more mom and baby foster homes. We're gonna need a lot. So even fostering a feral mom with her babies, that's an amazing gift that you can give. And boy, it does not take that much work. Honestly, you feed mom hisses at you, you go, okay, take care of the babies, please. You leave. You go to school, you come home, everybody's still doing good? Okay, mom hisses at you, sure, here's some food. And then a couple weeks pass, and those babies are so beautiful because they had their mama, and then mom either, if she's friendly, she gets adopted. If she's feral, she gets TNR'd. Those babies are alive because you did that work in your home, and it really doesn't take much. So, I encourage you to find a population that works for your life and your schedule, and remember that changes. Sometimes you have time to do this thing, sometimes you have time to do that thing, sometimes you don't have time to do anything, and that's also okay. I'm always looking at what's going on in my life and thinking, okay, what can I take on right now and what can't I take on right now? I'm on a book tour this week. I didn't take on any one-day-old kittens this week because I didn't want to leave them at home with Andrew. He would be very upset. However, when I get home, y'all know I'm getting some babies when I get home from this tour. So yeah, it changes.
And fostering doesn't necessarily have to be all the way through they're 8 weeks old.
True.
You can find someone who's saying, hey, I'm a little bit burnt out. And they're like, I need a break. And you're like, hey, I'm here. I can take it for a night. I finish all my homework super fast. So, Mom, can I do this? Can I take a kitten for a weekend so someone else could take a break?
That's awesome. And you know what? It's can we get these two together? Honestly, really though, because that makes a big difference. I became friends with someone recently. She only fosters overnights. Yeah. So if a kitten comes into the animal shelter late at night, and they don't have time, the foster coordinator's left for the day, she goes and she gets the overnights and she fosters overnight and she returns them in the morning, and then they have time to find a foster home.
I have one of those from ACC. You know, someone took the kitten overnight so that the kitten had a chance the next day, and now this kitten's in my bathroom. But I'm saying, like, a lot of times, you may not realize this, but during long weekends, a lot of times foster homes who are regularly there, you know, they take a break. And so a lot of these shelters, these organizations are looking for help on these long weekends, things that are traditionally people are away from. And if you're saying, hey, I'm around for the weekend, can I help out for 3 days? And that's a big deal. That's 3 days that gives, you know, a chance to these animals. It doesn't burn you out, and someone else could come in and step in. And then as you gain more experience, you know, you can take on longer term fosters.
I love that, and I think that's such a beautiful place to wrap this up, because that shows like how much the community part of this is important, the kind of puzzle pieces that we all contribute, right? Because you have your piece, you have your piece, everybody has their piece, and when we fit together, it makes this like incredible, beautiful picture of a safer world for these guys. So I think that's a good place to leave it off. I am not sure what happens next, because this is my first book event. What
Let's
are we
do a
doing,
round of
Emily?
applause for Hannah. Now stuff happens.
So now we're going to switch over to the signing, which is going to take place at this table. So everyone who has a book should have a sticky note with a number in